Hello, my name is Mary Elliott, and I am the curator of American Slavery at the National Museum of African American History and Culture. On behalf of the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture and our Andrew W. Mellon director, Kevin Young, it is my pleasure to extend greetings and to provide closing remarks for today's wonderful program. Thank you to our fellow co-hosts and organizers of this amazing event, including Smithsonian Undersecretary for Museums and Culture, Kevin Gover, the Smithsonian Latino Center, and the National Museum of the American Indian. Indeed, an important dialogue about the lived experiences of Native people, particularly experiences of enslavement, bondage, an important and long overlooked part of the nation's history, is imperative for all of us to learn, understand, and be empowered by. We've heard discussions regarding today's important topic, looking at it from a global and national perspective. The connections to European nation states, particularly Spain, and those countries that followed suit. We've considered local stories, culture, intersectionality, kinship and its complexities, the history of violence, and the legacies of all of this history, legacies that are seen today. This has been a thoughtful and engaging program focused on learning this important story that was seemingly hidden, but actually in plain sight. Attempts were made to erase this history, a history that is written on the landscapes passed down through the generations, documented in many languages, and accessible. This is a story that has been ignored or overlooked for far too long. When I think of the title of Dr. Resendes' award-winning book, The Other Slavery, The Uncovered Story of Indian Enslavement in America, many thoughts come to mind. Yes, the thought of Native people enslaved, stolen land, and the forced migration to various parts of the world. I think of the ineffectual laws ignored merely for greed, and I think of the tribal laws disregarded by European colonists seeking profit and power. What also comes to mind is the notion of othering and the seemingly common experiences of marginalized groups manipulated for wealth and power. The idea of otherness provided a sense of justification for the inhumane treatment of people based on race, ethnicity, and class. Laws were crafted to maintain systems of bondage, to limit freedom. Marginalized people made choices in an effort to secure freedom, to survive, and to claim a place in the landscape. As the curator of American slavery, it is incumbent upon me to be mindful when telling the story of slavery and freedom in the nation. At the National Museum of African American History and Culture, I emphasize that this is an American story told through an African American lens. And I note that that lens looked upon a diverse world that included enslaved people of African descent, free Black people, Native people, poor white people, yeoman white farmers, and the planter elite class. I realized that while I was a program presenter, I am also a program attendee. I understand better my charge to not just acknowledge the presence of Native people during the period of slavery and freedom in the nation, but also consider Native people's experiences of enslavement, bondage, and their own fight for freedom, as it informs how I tell a more nuanced story of slavery and freedom in this country. This is indeed a shared history with complex intersections that inform us about human suffering and the power of the human spirit. It tells us about choices we were forced to make to the detriment of other marginalized people, but also in solidarity in order to make change. Change only comes when we know our history, reflect upon it, and use such knowledge to consider and act upon the best way to move forward. What happens to the least of us affects us all. We must do more than just know the pain and suffering. We must also know the power of the people and understand the legacies of our history. Indeed, we must try to understand how we came to be where we are today and create the change we want to see in the world. Finally, while we learn from the robust and rich scholarship of scholars like Dr. Resendes, Dr. Taya Miles, Dr. Philip Deloria, and others, it is important that we remember the voices of the community members, the first person voice, As marginalized people who have been silenced or ignored, observed, and studied, it is imperative that we have a platform to share their story widely and that their stories are accessible. In my role as curator, historian, and practitioner, learning the history is key, but also taking note and exchanging information regarding methods of study, community engagement, oral history recording, repatriation, and more, thus helping to improve the field in creating best practices, mindfulness, and work towards restorative justice. We opened the Slavery and Freedom exhibition at the National Museum of African American History and Culture with a quote from renowned scholar Dr. John Hope Franklin, who charged us with telling the unvarnished truth. We must all make the effort to learn about, reflect upon, share, and be empowered by the unvarnished truth of our nation's history. It is powerful and poignant. Thank you.